Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the July 17th meeting of the Committee of Adjustment. I'd like to call this meeting to order at, what time is it? 10 o'clock. We acknowledge this morning that we are working on lands traditionally occupied by Indigenous peoples. Indigenous people continue to care for this land and continue to shape our township. We show our respect and will continually honor the treaties that we signed as we consider our decisions and actions. Before we begin, I'd ask any members of the committee if there are any declarations of pecuniary or conflict of interest. Okay, seeing none. We've all had an opportunity to review the meeting minutes of our June 5th meeting. Are there any questions or comments? Okay, I will read the resolution. It is moved by member Hazelton, seconded by member Matthews. Be it resolved that the Township of Georgian Bay Committee of Adjustment approves the minutes of June 5, 2026 as circulated. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you. The motion is carried and the minutes are approved. This morning, there's a public meeting scheduled for 4 consent applications and 6 minor variance applications. If you wish to be notified of the decision of the committee, please write your name on the contact list in front, or you can register online. I'll briefly summarize the procedure to be followed this morning. First, the clerk will advise the committee as to when, how, and to whom notice of each of the hearings was circulated for applications being considered. Next, each of the applications will be considered separately. Planning staff will advise of the purpose and effect of the applications and provide any information that is relevant. The clerk will summarize any correspondence on file, and from there the applicant may make a brief presentation if they so choose. And the public will have an opportunity to speak to the applications being considered. After the public forum, the committee will then deliberate on the proposed applications and consider a motion to either pass, defeat, or defer the decision. The consent application being considered this morning are B2608 and B2609 for 3838 Hungry Bay Road, B2611 for 201 Nicholson Road, B2612 for 714 Sweets Portage Road, and the minor variance applications being considered this morning are A26-18 for 170 Red Hawk Road, A2620 for 64 Trillium Lane, A2621 for 215 Sanctuary Road, A26-22 for 15 Silver Sands Lake Road, A2623 for 20 Island 2060, and 2624 for 49 Dayeo Drive. Madam Clerk.
Notice of each of the applications was sent by first-class mail to the respective owners and assessed persons within 120 meters, 500 meters, or 800 meters, and to those persons and agencies likely to have an interest in the application. The notices were sent at least 20 days prior to this morning's meeting. Included in each notice was an explanation of the purpose and effect of the application and a key map showing the location of the property. Other relevant information may have also been provided. These circulations were provided in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act 1990.
Thank you. Our first consent application is B26-08 and B2609 for 3838 Hungry Bay Road. To the planner, please.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of committee. The first applications are B2608 and B2609. Sorry. There we go. The property is currently vacant land with 2 private roads that cross the lands. The subject property is comprised of 1.52 hectares and a frontage of 321.89 meters on Hungry Bay Road. The property does provide access to waterfront parcels. The private road subject to the easement request is at the north end of the property, while there is another private road laneway from Hungry Bay Road that provides access to other waterfront properties south of the properties subject to the legal easement being requested. Access to Hungry Bay Road is from South Gibson Lake Road on the east side of the 400 highway corridor, and the dominant lands subject to the easement request have frontage on 6 Mile Lake. 2 applications for consent were received by the township on April the 13th, 2026. At the request of the applicant, the applications are on the July hearing agenda. The portion of Hungry Bay Road that crosses the subject's land was conveyed to the owner, William McCart, in March 2020 by the township of Georgian Bay. The intent of the creation of the legal easement is to provide ingress and egress from the open municipal portion of Hungry Bay Road to the properties known as 432 and 440 Hungry Bay Road. The existing easement is described as Part 1, Plan 35R 27287, comprised of 759 square meters, and currently provides legal ingress and egress to 446 and 454 Hungry Bay Road. Consent files B2303A and B2303B were approved on July 14th, 2023 by the Committee of Adjustment, legally providing access to 446 and 454 Hungry Bay Road. The easement subject to the request is identified as Part 1, Plan 35R 27287, and is existing and does provide ingress and egress to other waterfront parcels. The 2 parcels that will be benefiting from the creation of the legal easement are currently residential properties with single detached dwellings. The existing easement, which will provide legal access to both 432 and 440 Hungry Bay Road, has a width of approximately 10 meters and an area, as stated previously, of 759 square meters. The easement is already being used by the 2 properties, and the intent is to legalize the use of the easement from the public portion of Hungry Bay Road. Planning staff have conducted a detailed analysis of the proposal based on applicable planning legislation and are recommending approval subject to standard conditions of consent. The committee has the option to approve, deny with reasons, or defer the application for additional information. Thank you.
Been correspondence in this application.
1 letter was received from the District of Muskoka stating they have no objection to the application. 1 letter was received from Kaylee Nicholson, Chief Building Official, stating she has no concerns regarding this application. And 1 letter of support was received from Kevin and Karen Phipps.
Application before the committee for any questions or comments. Member Jarvis.
Good morning, and thank you. Through you, Chair. Just a quick question that's may not be particularly relevant, and for that I apologize. But is there a road allowance immediately adjacent to the lands over which this easement is traversing?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I believe there is. Looking at the GIS mapping, I believe there is. And I believe it's in the township ownership.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
It shows on the mapping.
It's up to him.
Who said what? Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't see your mouth move.
Couldn't hear it all. I didn't quite understand what you're saying about the road allowance.
I'm just curious what the situation is with the road allowance. Is it owned by the municipality, or does somebody else own
The
it?
boat launch isn't on township property, it's on my property.
The road allowance is part of your property.
The road allowance, I lease the road allowance beside our property. Sarah, 30 half of it, was it 33 feet or whatever?
Yeah, the half of it, yeah. And you lease that?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just curious. Thank you. That's all.
Okay. Is there any other member of the public that wishes to pose a question? No, and any other member of committee that has any questions? All right. Seeing none, I will read the resolution. Be it resolved that the Township of Georgian Bay Committee of Adjustment hereby grants provisional consent to application B2608 for an easement subject to the following conditions. 1, that the owners of the dominant and servient lands provide a tax receipt, property tax receipt or correspondence from Township Financial Services indicating that all property taxes have been paid up to date with respect to the property that is subject to this decision. And two, that a copy of the deposit reference plan be provided to the Secretary Treasurer. Three, that a draft transfer be prepared by a solicitor and submitted to the Secretary Treasurer in preparation for the creation of a certificate of official describing the dominant and servient land subject to the easement created by consent. And four, that all fees and disbursements, if any, incurred by the township with respect to the applications be paid for by the respective owners. Pursuant to section 53, subsection 42 of the Planning Act, the certificate of consent be affixed to the deed within 2 years of the giving of notice of decision. Section 53, subsection 43 of the Planning Act requires that the transaction approved by this consent must be carried out within 2 years of the issuance of certificate. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you. The motion is carried, and the resolution for B2608 is approved. We have a second resolution for B2609. Be it resolved that the Township Georgian Bay Committee of Adjustment hereby grants provisional consent to the application B2609 for an easement subject to the following conditions: that the owners of the dominant and servient lands provide a property tax certificate or correspondence from Township Financial Services indicating that all property taxes have been paid up to date with respect to the property that is subject to the decision, and that a copy of the deposited reference plan be provided to the Secretary Treasurer. Three, that a draft transfer be prepared by a solicitor and submitted to the Secretary Treasurer in preparation for the creation of a certificate of official describing the dominant servient lands subject to the easement created by consent. And four, that all fees and disbursements, if any, incurred by the township with respect to the applications be paid by the respective owners. Pursuant to section 53, subsection 42 of the Planning Act, the certificate of consent be fixed to the deed within 2 years of giving notice of decision. And section 53, subsection 43 of the Planning Act requires that the transaction approved by this consent must be carried out within 2 years of the issuance of the certificate. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you. The motion is carried and the application is approved. Our next consent application is B26-11 for 201 Nicholson Road. To the planner, please.
Thank you, and through the chair. The subject property has an approximate area of 33.3 hectares and has water frontage on Little Go Home Bay with road frontage on Nicholson Road, Carson Way, and Points of View Road, which traverse the property. The lands are developed with a mooring facility and are located north of Port Severn and south of Whites Falls Road. The lands benefiting from the severance are developed with a detached dwelling and accessory buildings and structures, being municipally known as 147 Nicholson Road. The purpose and effect of the application is to sever 403.7 square meters of land, which will be merged with 147 Nicholson Road for the purpose of remedying accessory building encroachment issues. The provincial planning statement defines development as the creation of a new lot, a change in land use, or the construction of buildings and structures requiring approval under the Planning Act. The application is for a boundary adjustment and is not development. Therefore, limited policies apply to the proposal and no supporting studies were triggered. Within the district official plan, the lands are designated waterfront and the shoreline where the mooring facility is located contains type 2 fish habitat, while the privately owned bay abutting the subject and benefiting lands contains type 1 fish habitat. The Gloucester Pool provincially significant wetland is located on the west side of Nicholson Road, approximately 170 meters from the lands to be severed. Overall, the waterfront policies aim to balance environmental protection, recreation, and limited development while managing growth. The boundary adjustment conforms with these policies as it represents a minor change that does not introduce new or intensifies or intensified uses beyond those permitted, while maintaining the overall low-density waterfront character. It respects natural features, shoreline integrity, and existing development patterns, and has no negative impact on water quality, ecological functions, or public access. Within the township's official plan, the lands are designated waterfront, which permits small-scale residential development, some commercial and small-scale tourist operations, public uses, and waterfront landings and access points. In accordance with the plan, 201 Nicholson Road is developed with a mainland waterfront landing, which is defined as a mainland parking and docking facility, which serves a commercial property or 4 or more residential dwellings, and is considered accessory to a permitted primary commercial or residential use. The application does not alter or expand the permitted use of the subject lands and does not constitute development. Therefore, it does not trigger the policies that guide development within the waterfront land use designation. Furthermore, Section I-4 of the official plan recognizes consent may also be permitted for technical or legal reasons such as boundary adjustment, lot additions, easements, rights of ways, validation of titles, or other similar purposes that do not result in the creation of a new lot. Subject lands are currently zoned Marine Commercial Type 1, Exception 2 Hold, and partially zoned Environmental Protection Provincially Significant Wetland and Environmental Protection Wetland. The lands have frontage on a shoreline zoned Fish Habitat Type 1. The benefiting lands, 147 Nicholson Road, are zoned Shoreline Residential Type 1. The 2 existing metal container shed and wood-sided shed, no roof, are partially located on the lands to be severed and do not comply with the 4-meter rear yard setback requirement. The boundary adjustment will provide for a 6.12-meter rear yard setback. During our site visit, staff observed that these 2 sheds were actually storage containers connected by a wood fence-like structure. In accordance with the zoning bylaw, storage containers are only permitted within rural and industrial zones. The zoning bylaw also requires accessory structures within the shoreline residential zone to maintain a minimum separation distance of 5 meters from other buildings. Staff have included a condition of approval requiring the severed lands to be rezoned to the shoreline residential type 1 zone to match the zoning of the lot in which they will be merged and to address the issues of noncompliance related to the storage containers. Furthermore, the boundary adjustment will increase the lot area of 147 Nicholson Road by 403.7 square meters from its current size of approximately 2,460 square meters. This change brings the lot closer to meeting the minimum lot area requirement of 4,000 square meters for the shoreline residential type 1 zone. Pictured here is the right-of-way and land subject to the boundary adjustment. In accordance with the Planning Act, as the benefiting lands are a whole lot on a registered plan of subdivision, a deeming bylaw is required to facilitate the merging of the parcel with the lands to be severed. Planning staff have conducted a detailed analysis of the proposal based on applicable planning legislation and are recommending approval subject to conditions, including but not limited to a zoning bylaw amendment and deeming bylaw. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, has there been correspondence in this application?
One letter was received from the District of Muskoka stating they have no objection to the application. One letter was received from Kaylee Nicholson, Chief Building Official, stating she has no concerns regarding this application. And one letter was received from the MTO stating they have no comment or concerns regarding this proposed application.
Thank you. Is the applicant present and do they wish to address the committee? And could I have your name and address for the record, please?
My name is Karen Rathwell, and my address is 201 Nicholson's Road. I'm one of the families that owns this property.
Okay, thank you. And what can you add to what the planner?
I would just like to say I just appreciate everyone's time and how easy the staff has made this for us. But I wanted to be sure that there's a lot of understanding that these containers, I think that's about the zoning hearing that we'll have to have, just contain personal items or nobody's living in them and so on, and there's no objection to them in our little area.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there any member of the public present that wishes to address the committee on this application? Yes, sir. Please come forward and give us your name and address.
My name is Jeffrey Greasley. I live at 147 Nicholson Road. What I wanted to do is introduce a letter from my next door neighbor at 157 Nicholson Road, where they voiced no objections whatsoever. I don't know who I should give.
Okay, if it's no objection, we don't need to read it then. Thanks.
Okay, well, that want to make sure I had that.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Other than that, regarding the containers, I didn't know the one encroached, and that's why we're rectifying it. But there's two small storage containers. One contains tools, the other contains seasonal decorations, and to conform with my own sense of aesthetics, I camouflaged them when I first put them in 12 years ago, because I didn't want to have to look at some eyesore every time I drove in. And I know the neighbors, it's be no objection, they don't notice them, and no one else can see them from the water or anything else. So
Okay, great. Thank you. Any further discussion from anybody of the public?
yes.
Okay, seeing none, I will close the public portion of the meeting and bring the application before the committee for any questions or comments. And Member Jarvis, please.
Thank you, through the chair. This is just a quick little question for planning. When I looked this up, I came up with the Nicholson's Road, not Nicholson Road. I think it's important that we make sure we get the spelling right. Is it Nicholson's in the possessive sense, or Nicholson singular?
Through you, Chair. I've seen it both ways. I've seen it with an apostrophe S, and I believe in Georgian Bay they just call it Nicholson, but in several other maps it's Nicholson. So I pick one or the other.
I think we should just make sure we make clarification. Okay, we better talk to Google Maps then. Thank you.
Thank you. Then if there are, Member Predko, please go ahead.
Thank you. And just a quick question to the planner, and I'm sure I just missed it in the report. But shipping containers and containers of different sorts are not allowed in our township for different purposes, and just want to make sure that the use for this shipping container isn't a concern. Obviously, it's not, because you're recommending the report. So I just wanted to confirm that, though.
Through the chair, we permit storage containers or shipping containers in the rural and industrial zones only.
Okay.
So because this is a shoreline residential property and it's zoned that way, they're not permitted.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Seeing no further questions, I will read the resolution. Be it resolved that the Committee of Adjustment for the Township of Georgian Bay hereby grants provisional approval to consent application B26-11 for the boundary adjustment involving lands municipally known as 201 Nicholson Road and 147 Nicholson Road, subject to the following conditions. One, that the owner apply for a deeming bylaw at the sole cost of the owner, deeming lot 23 on plan M243 not to be on a plan of subdivision. The deeming bylaw must be approved by the township, registered on title at the cost of the owner, and the solicitor for the owner shall provide an undertaking that the deeming bylaw be registered prior to the certification and registration of any transfer deeds. And two, that the clerk of the township provide written confirmation that a zoning bylaw amendment is in force and effect, which rezones the severed lands to a shoreline residential type 1 zone and addresses the non-compliant accessory structures. And three, that the severed lands with an area of 403.7 square meters be merged in title with the abutting property to the north, municipally known as 147 Nicholson Road, and that the provisions of section 53 subsection 3 and section 50 subsection 5 of the Planning Act apply to this to any subsequent conveyance of or other transaction involving the identical subject parcel of land. Therefore, once the parcel of land has been conveyed to the owner of the abutting parcel, the subject parcel and the said abutting parcel shall merge in the title and become one parcel of land. 4, a solicitor's written undertaking shall be provided to the Secretary Treasurer indicating that the necessary steps will be taken to A, implement the conveyance and merger, B, consolidate the severed and benefiting parcels in one property identification number, and C, all the benefiting parcel if it was created pursuant to section 50 or 53 of the Planning Act so that it is not the identical parcel of land. And 5, that the owner provide a property tax certificate or correspondence from Township Financial Services indicating that all property taxes have been paid up to date with respect to the property subject to this decision. And 6, that a draft reference plan be completed by an Ontario land surveyor and a digital copy filed with the Secretary Treasurer of the Committee of Adjustment. And 7, that all fees and disbursement, if any, incurred by the township with respect to the applications be paid for by the respective owners. And pursuant to section 53, subsection 42 of the Planning Act, the certificate of assent be affixed to the deed within 2 years of giving notice of decision. And section 53, subsection 43 of the Planning Act requires that the transaction approved by this consent must be carried out within 2 years of the issuance of the certificate. All those in favor of approval, please indicate by raising your hand. Thank you. The motion is carried and the application is approved. Our next consent application is B26-12 for 714 Sweets Portage Road. To the planner, please. To come together for you, Deb? No. You're not getting away. We'll blame Mr. Donaldson for that.
I apologize for that. The property subject to the easement request in consent file B2610 is a waterfront parcel comprised of 0.38 hectares with a frontage on Little Lake of 67.06 meters. Access to the lot is from a private road known as Sweets Portage Road. The property is heavily treed and primarily maintained in its natural state. At the present time, and according to MPAC, the only structure on the property is a single detached dwelling. The property is heavily treed and natural vegetation has been retained. The shoreline of the property abuts a provincially significant wetland, and any future work on the lands may require environmental work to be undertaken. A pre-application consultation request was submitted to the township on May 20th, 2026, with the memo being completed on May 22nd, 2026, and forwarded to the applicant. A consent application to legalize an existing right-of-way easement was received by the township on June the 4th, 2026. The existing right-of-way has been in existence and used for approximately 40 years, and the consent application is to actually legalize this driveway entrance as an easement which will be registered on title. The parcel that will benefit from the creation of the legal easement is currently a residential parcel that, according to MPAC, has a single detached dwelling, detached garage with a residence above, a sleeping cabin, and a boathouse. The right-of-way / easement that crosses the subject lands has been in existence for 40+ years, and the proposal is to legalize the access to 711 Suites Portage Road by having a legal easement registered on title. The easement is comprised of 344.47 square meters and currently provides ingress and egress to Suites Portage Road, which is a private road. Planning staff have conducted a detailed analysis of the proposal based on applicable planning legislation and are recommending approval subject to standard conditions of consent. The committee has the option to approve, deny with reasons, or defer the application for additional information. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, has there been correspondence on this application?
One letter was received from the District of Muskoka stating they have no objection to the application, and one letter was received from Kelly Nicholson, Chief Building Official, stating she has no concerns regarding this application.
Thank you. Is the applicant or their agent present, and do they wish to address the committee in regard to this application? If you do, please come forward to the microphone, give us your name and address. Okay, no problem. Is there any member of the public that's present that wishes to address the committee on this application? Anyone online? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public portion of the meeting and bring the application before the committee for any questions or comments. Okay, seeing none, I will read the resolution. It is moved by Member Schmidt, seconded by Member Jarvis. Be it resolved that the Township of Georgian Bay Committee of Adjustment hereby grants provisional consent to consent application B26-12 for an easement subject to the following conditions. One, that the owners of the dominant and servient lands provide a property tax certificate or correspondence from Town Financial Services indicating that all property taxes have been paid up to date with respect to the property that is subject to this decision. And two, that a copy of the deposited reference plan be provided to the Secretary Treasurer. Three, that a draft transfer be prepared by solicitor and submitted to the Secretary Treasurer in preparation for the creation of a certificate official describing the dominant and servient land subject to the easement created by consent. And four, that all fees and disbursement, if any, incurred by the township with respect to the application be paid for by the applicant. And pursuant to section 53, subsection 42 of the Planning Act, the certificate of consent be affixed to the deed within 2 years of giving a notice of decision. And section 53, subsection 43 of the Planning Act requires that the transaction approved by this consent must be carried out within 2 years of the issuance of the certificate. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. Thank you. The motion is carried and the application is approved. Thank you. Our first minor variance application this morning is A26-18 for 170 Red Hawk Road. To the planner, please.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. The subject property has an area of 2.9 acres with a frontage of 61.1 meters onto 6 Mile Lake. A detached dwelling and a dock currently occupy the lands. The subject lands are densely vegetated with the majority of the tree clearing occurring for the driveway access and the building envelopes in the immediate surrounding areas. The purpose and effect of the application is to seek relief from the zoning bylaw to recognize the as-built detached dwelling for the addition of a partial basement, bringing the building height to 9.07 meters, whereas section 6.3, table 6.2 permits a maximum building height of 8 meters. And the gross floor area will be increasing to 288.07 square meters, whereas section 6.3.3B permits a maximum gross floor area of 275 square meters. The existing detached dwelling was legally constructed in 2006. However, the final grading did not conform to the elevations shown on the approved building permit drawings. As a result, the lakeside building height exceeds the permitted limit and the crawl space is deeper than originally approved. The owner now proposes to finish and convert the crawl space into a partial basement, requiring a variance for the building height and total gross floor area. As shown on the attached survey, the dwelling straddles a steep elevation change as the property slopes to the water with a total elevation change of 8.66 meters. Due to the steep grade change along the front wall of the dwelling, reducing the crawl space height and overall building height through the import of fill would require significant site alteration and would result in undesirable impacts to the natural environment. The subject property is designated as waterfront area under both the district and township official plans. The waterfront is a unique recreational resource and land and water asset, and as such, the development permitted should enhance and protect the natural heritage qualities. The development enhances and protects the natural heritage qualities of the waterfront by maintaining a substantial shoreline setback of 54.2 meters and preserving the dense mature vegetation buffer to the water's edge. The continued use of the property for a single unit dwelling with no expansion to the building footprint and no intensification of use reflects the traditional development pattern and maintains compatibility with the surrounding land uses. As per the 6 Mile Lake dwelling size policies in the township official plan, variations to dwelling size standards may be considered depending on the size of the lot and the size of the dwelling, respecting the aesthetic integrity of the natural heritage and character of the community. Further variances to the established maximum size of the dwelling may be considered where the applicant provides evidence satisfactory to the township that the dwelling will maintain and enhance natural form of the area and the visual impact of the dwelling will not be significant. The dwelling's significant setback from the shoreline, combined with dense vegetation screening, ensures that it remains largely unobtrusive to the water. The proposal does not increase the building footprint, and the recognition of the existing height and addition of the basement do not contribute to increasing massing or visual prominence. As such, the dwelling avoids an overly large appearance, preserves the natural form and aesthetic integrity of the waterfront, and remains compatible with established character of the community, therefore satisfying the criteria for a minor variance. The committee can either approve or deny the variances being requested. The committee may also defer the application to a later date if additional information is required to come to a decision. Planning staff have completed a detailed analysis of the variances to the zoning bylaw being requested and are recommending approval subject to conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, has there been correspondence in this application?
One letter was received from Kaylee Nicholson, Chief Building Official, stating building permits will be required, and 5 letters of support were received from Christine Vizinski, Dave and Sabine Orchard, Dave and Patsy Elsie, Eric and Nora Versteak, and Robin Lisa Lozone.
Okay, is the applicant present and or their agent, and do they wish to address the committee? Please identify yourself with your name and address.
My name is Victoria Hoffman, here on behalf of Flow Drawings and Design at 3 Violet Drive, Port Severn. This application, in my opinion, is pretty straightforward. It came to light from the property owners trying to close an open 2006 building permit. When doing so, they realized that there were some building code deficiencies that they had to address, as well as the crawl space was deeper than the 2006 drawing package had intended, and the backfill heights didn't come out the way that it had intended. And there was some ground cover issues in the crawl space. So they're not looking to change the volume of the building. Basically, we're just looking to legalize an existing condition that's been there for almost 20 years. And basically just bring that crawl space up to building code requirements, which we'll work with the building department on after we get through this. And they didn't want to change, like backfilling the crawl space, given the slopes and stuff like that, to bring the building height down. Just doesn't make sense. So here to answer any questions. The property owner is online as well, but yeah.
Okay, thank you. Does the property owner wish to add anything to the comments from your agent?
I don't believe he does.
No, okay, then is there any member of the public, either present or online, that wishes to comment on this application? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public portion of the meeting and bring the application before the committee for any questions or comments. And seeing none, I will read the resolution. Be it resolved, moved by member Matthews, seconded by member Predko. Be it resolved that the Township of Georgian Bay Committee of Adjustment approves minor variance application A26-18 to zoning bylaw 2014-75 as amended for 170 Red Hawk Road to recognize the as-built attached dwelling for the addition of a partial basement as described below. 1, a building height of 9.07 meters, whereas section 6.3, table 6.2 permits a maximum building height of 8 meters. And 2, a gross floor area of 288.07 square meters, whereas section 6.1.3, subsection B, permits a maximum gross floor area of 275 square meters. The above noted approvals are subject to the following conditions. 1, that the owner provide a property tax certificate or correspondence from Township Financial Services indicating that all property taxes have been paid to date with respect to the property that is subject to this decision. And 2, that the proposed detached dwelling is substantially and proportionately in conformity with the dimensions as set out on the application and sketches submitted and approved by the committee. And 3, that the appropriate zoning certificate and building permit be obtained within 3 years from the date of decision from the township only after the committee's decision becomes final and binding. All of those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. Thank you. The motion is carried and the application is approved. Our next minor variance application is A26-20 for 64 Trillium Lane. To the planner, please.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. The subject property has an area of 1.32 acres with a frontage of 60.29 meters onto 6 Mile Lake. A detached dwelling, 2 sleeping cabins, a shed, and 2 docks currently occupy the lands. A significant portion of the property remains in its natural state, with clearing existing to the rear of the dwelling. The purpose and effect of the application is to seek relief from the zoning bylaw to facilitate the reconstruction of a legal non-complying dwelling, with an increase in attached deck floor area to 62.48 square meters, whereas section 4.11A permits the existing maximum floor area of 42.36 square meters, an increase in gross floor area of 48% of it's 69.66% of the legally existing gross floor area, whereas section 4.11E permits a maximum increase of 25%, and an increase in building height to 6.7 meters, whereas section 4.11E permits a maximum height of 5.6 meters. The proposed dwelling expansion requires a minor variance due to the existing legal non-compliant front yard setback. If the dwelling were fully compliant with the required front yard setback, it would remain well within the maximum gross floor area and height provisions of the SR6 zone. Section 4.11A of the zoning bylaw states that a legally non-complying deck can be reconstructed within a required yard, so long that the reconstruction does not increase the amount of floor area in the required yard. As the proposed attached deck will increase the floor area by 20.12 square meters, a variance is required. All 3 of the required variances are considered expansions to a legal non-complying dwelling or structure, meaning that the entirety of the application is to be considered under subsection 45(2) of the Planning Act. In order to refuse the legal non-complying expansion, the undue adverse impacts of the proposed expansion must be demonstrated by objective evidence and must be sufficient to override the property owner's right to reasonable flexibility, evolution, and expansion. No adverse visual, privacy, or environmental impacts on the adjacent properties are anticipated as a result of the proposed development. The proposed dwelling is to be strategically sited in the general footprint of the existing dwelling, maintaining its current visibility to the neighboring properties and the lake. Existing vegetation will continue to provide effective visual screening, and as a result, views from the adjacent property amenity areas will be largely maintained, and the proposed expansion is not expected to negatively affect the enjoyment, use, or character of the neighboring properties. The dwelling is most visible from the shoreline, where the front facade is orientated toward the waterfront. The majority of the expansion is directed toward the rear and south side of the existing dwelling, where the building width will increase by approximately 2.36 meters and the overall height will increase by 2.1 meters, creating a 1 1/2 story dwelling. Despite these modifications, the scale of the expansion has been designed to remain subordinate to the natural landscape and existing vegetation. The committee can either approve or deny the variances being requested. The committee may also defer the application to a later date if additional information is required to come to a decision. Planning staff have completed a detailed analysis of the variances to the zoning bylaw being requested and are recommending approval subject to conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, has there been correspondence in this application?
One letter was received from Keely Nicholson, Chief Building Official, stating building permits are required. The existing sewage system appears undersized and will be reviewed through the building permit process. A permit will not be issued until the proposed development complies with all applicable Ontario Building Code requirements. 3 letters of support were received from Craig Cameron, Glenna McKellen, Ryan, and Sharon Newell, and 1 letter was received from Lyle Lawrence expressing strong opposition to the proposed reduction of the septic system shoreline setback from 30 meters to 20 meters and concerns regarding the proposed 69.66 increase in dwelling gross floor area, noting that approval of these variances could undermine zoning protections intended to limit septic impacts, reduce runoff, and protect the health of the lake.
Okay, thank you. Is the applicant present and do they wish to address the committee and add to what the planner provided? Please come forward, have a seat, give us your name and address, please.
My name is Nathan Bueller of Building Workshop. Address is 1543 Bloor Street West in Toronto.
And you're here on behalf of the...
On behalf of the owner, yes.
Okay, and was there something you wished to add?
I don't need to add anything, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other, is the owner here as well, or?
I believe they are online, yes.
Online. Do they wish to add anything to the comments made by the planner? Don't see anyone. Okay, is there any member of the... I'm sorry? Are you moving? Okay. Okay, so no comments from the applicant or their agent. Is there any member of the public that wishes to address the committee on this application? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public portion of the meeting and bring the application before the committee for questions or comments. And we'll begin with Member Jarvis.
Thank you, through the chair. A quick question. I think one of the letters received against or the objective to this application said something about septic and septic setbacks. Can I have clarification on that? Because it looked to me like the septic was adequately set back.
Mr. Donaldson, would you respond to that, please?
Through the chair, there was confusion in the initial stages of this application process that they would require a reduced setback for a pump chamber, whereas the zoning bylaw doesn't regulate setbacks for pump chambers. That's all taken care of under the Ontario Building Code. As you said, the existing setback is adequately existing septic, is adequately set back. And even if it were required to be expanded, it would be well within the regulations of the zoning bylaw.
Thank you for the confirmation. One other further question, which is separate. We are bringing a building that is legally non-compliant into compliance by approving this. Is there any way in the future that we can have on title indicated that there would be no further expansion of this building, since we've given it approval today, basically bringing it into compliance when really it is legally non-compliant? Is there anything we can do to bind any future owner to no further requests for additions?
And Director Whitland, would you care to respond to Member Jarvis's question?
Yeah, through the chair, thank you. I'd be happy to. So the answer to Member Jarvis's question is no. We have no authority to prevent any current or future owner from applying for something further, right? Obviously, an application may be bound by whatever conditions or limitations are contained in a decision of this committee, but anyone could apply for whatever they want and come before this or a future committee, again, seeking permission.
Thank you.
Follow up if that's pleases the chair.
You've had 2. You want a third?
Try one.
Go ahead, Member Jarvis.
Understanding what has just been the answer to my question, is there any way, any condition, further condition we could put on this to restrict any future additions?
Again, we, through the chair, we cannot prevent someone from making a future application.
Thank you. Member Bessie, you had a question or comment?
I did, but it was Mr. Jarvis's first question about the septic, so thank you.
Okay, very good. Member Petco, please.
Yep, thank you. And through you, Chair, and just wanted to confirm with the planner that the increases in height and in GFA are for an increase of an existing dwelling, but if this was a new dwelling, this dwelling would be well within the permitted height and GFA
Through the chair, that's correct. If it was set back to the requirement for the SR6 zone, which would be 20 meters, and it was a brand new build, it would be within the allowed height and GFA requirements.
Okay, thank you.
Great. I just have a quick clarification. If we are approving an expansion of a legal non-complying dwelling, it doesn't change it then from a legal non-complying. It just means still legal non-complying but expanded. Is that right?
Through the chair, that's my understanding. It would remain a legal non-compliant dwelling.
And the expansion of the deck, is that in the front yard of the dwelling, and does that come into play for this application?
Through the chair, yes, it does. It's addressed under section 4.11A, and there is a variance to that. So the deck isn't moving any closer to the shoreline, but is expanding within that front yard setback. So a variance is required.
Okay, thank you. If there are no further questions, I will read the resolution. Be it resolved that the Township of Georgian Bay Community of Adjustment approved minor variance application A 26-20 to zoning bylaw 2014-75 as amended for 64 Trillium Lane to facilitate the reconstruction of a legal non-complying dwelling as described below. 1, an increase in attached deck floor area to 62.48 square meters, whereas section 411A permits a maximum floor area of 42.36 square meters. And 2, an existing gross floor area, an increase in gross floor area of 69.66% of legal existing gross floor area, whereas section 4.11E permits a maximum increase of 25%. And 3, an increase in building height of 6.7 meters, whereas section 411E permits a maximum height of 5.6 meters. The above noted approvals are subject to the following conditions. 1, that the owner provide a property tax certificate or correspondence from Township Financial Services indicating that all property taxes have been paid up to date with respect to this property. And 2, that the owner at their cost shall enter into a minor variance agreement with the township regarding and registered upon subject lands to verify that the portion of the building below grade will require 4 cubic meters or less of blasting. And 3, that the proposed detached dwelling be substantially and proportionally in conformity with the dimensions as set out on the application and sketches submitted and approved by the committee. And 4, that the appropriate zoning certificate and building permit be obtained within 3 years from the date of decision from the township only after the committee's decision becomes final and binding. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you. The application, the motion is carried and the application is approved. Our next minor variance application is A 26-21 for 215 Sanctuary Road. To the planner, please.
Thank you, and through the chair. The subject property has an area of 4,182 square meters and a frontage of 58.8 meters on 6 Mile Lake. The subject lands are developed with a detached dwelling, a detached garage, a shed which is to be removed, and a dock. The lands are designated waterfront in the district and township official plans within the 6 Mile Lake inland waterfront community. Aside from having frontage on a portion of the lake identified as a narrow water body, there are no development constraints or significant natural heritage features. The purpose and effect of the application is to seek relief from the zoning bylaw to facilitate the reconstruction and expansion of a legal non-complying shoreline dwelling. The applicant is seeking a gross floor area increase of 146.73% or 114.92 square meters, whereas an increase in the gross floor area of a legal non-complying shoreline dwelling of 70% or 54.82 square meters is permitted, and a dwelling width of 33.23% of the lot frontage, or 19.57 meters, whereas the zoning bylaw permits a dwelling width equivalent to 25% of the lot frontage, which in this case is 14.72 meters. The variance pertaining to the proposed gross floor area of the dwelling is subject to two tests, as the dwelling is legal non-complying, and the total gross floor area does not exceed the maximum permitted in the 6 Mile Lake residential zone. The tests for an application for permission to expand are whether the application is desirable for appropriate development of the subject property and whether the application will result in undue adverse impacts on surrounding properties in the neighborhood. Only the proposed expansion may be evaluated for undue adverse impacts. The applicant is proposing a gross floor area increase of 146.73% to the existing dwelling, which has a gross floor area of 78.32 square meters or 843 square feet. And the proposed dwelling will have a total gross floor area of 193.2 square meters or 2,080 square feet. As outlined in the associated staff report, staff are of the opinion the increase in gross floor area is desirable for the appropriate development of the property and will not result in undue adverse impacts on surrounding properties in the neighborhood. The expansion is largely directed to the rear of the existing dwelling, minimizing changes to the established building presence and reducing visibility from the shoreline and neighboring properties. The majority of the additional floor area is located at or beyond the 20-meter front yard setback, thereby maintaining an appropriate separation from the water and limiting visual impact. The total gross floor area complies with the maximum permitted based on the lot area in the 6 Mile Lake residential zone, being 209 square meters. The front yard is not being reduced, and the expansion is designed to comply with the required 5-meter side yard setback. Existing vegetation and tree cover will continue to screen the dwelling, maintaining privacy and reducing visual impacts on adjacent properties from the water. The variance related to the proposed dwelling width must be evaluated against 4 tests, as the proposed expansion exceeds the maximum width permitted in the 6 Mile Lake residential zone. While Section 411E of the zoning bylaw allows for the expansion of legal non-complying shoreline dwellings, it does not permit development beyond the standards of the underlying zone. The proposed dwelling has a width of 19.57 meters, whereas the existing dwelling measures 13.7 meters in width. The zoning bylaw permits a maximum dwelling width of 25% of the lot frontage, which in this case equates to 14.72 meters. The intent is to regulate building massing along the shoreline, ensuring that dwellings do not present an overly expansive visual profile when viewed from the lake, and that development remains compatible with the character of 6 Mile Lake. In this case, while the dwelling width exceeds the maximum permitted, this is largely a function of how dwelling width is measured rather than a proportional increase in dwelling width. The zoning bylaw requires measurement parallel to the shoreline. However, the dwelling is oriented at an angle. As a result, the width is measured diagonally from the front corner to the rear corner of the proposed Muskoka room, which inflates the technical width. From a built form and visual perspective, the front facade of the dwelling, being the portion most perceived from the shoreline, is increasing modestly from 12.3 meters to 14.63 meters. This represents a minor expansion that remains within the intended 25% frontage limit. The additional width beyond this is attributable to a 3.04 meter wide Muskoka room projecting from the side of the dwelling. This projection does not contribute significantly to the perceived massing of the dwelling from the lake, which remains 1 story and reads as a secondary element rather than an extension of the main dwelling wall. The official plan recognizes that both the size and siting of dwellings directly influence their environmental and visual impact on 6 Mile Lake, and as such, overly large dwellings should be avoided. The policies note that preserving, restoring, or enhancing native shoreline vegetation, along with increased setbacks from the lake, may support modest increases in dwelling size. Variances may be considered where it can be demonstrated that the proposal maintains the natural form of the area, minimizes visual impact, and conforms with applicable 6 Mile Lake specific policies and environmental objectives. In accordance with the official plan, staff are recommending a condition of approval requiring the enhancement of the natural state shoreline area through the planting of native vegetation within 15 meters of the shoreline. This measure will improve shoreline naturalization, enhance visual screening, and ensure that any increase in building width is appropriately mitigated. Shown here are additional photos of the existing dwelling and area of expansion. The Committee of Adjustment can either approve or deny with reason the variance pertaining to the proposed dwelling width. For the committee to deny the variance applied for under 45.2 pertaining to the gross floor area, the undue adverse impacts of the proposed expansion must be demonstrated by objective evidence and must be sufficient to override the property owner's right to reasonable flexibility, evolution, and expansion. The committee can defer the application to a later date if additional information is required to come to a decision. Planning staff have completed a detailed analysis based on applicable tests under the Planning Act and are recommending approval subject to conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, has there been correspondence in this application?
One letter was received from Kelly Nicholson, Chief Building Official, stating that a building permit is required and a review of sewage system will need to be completed. And 3 letters of support were received by Kevin and Stephanie Flew, RJ Wilson and Robert Wilson, and Sue Mortison.
Thank you. Is the applicant present and do they wish to address the committee?
Good morning.
And what is your name?
Victoria Hoffman, 3
Ah.
Violet Drive, here on behalf of Sean and Sherry Stokes. This application, we're proposing 193.2 square meter new dwelling, which is under the 6 Mile Lake standard for the cap on the GFA, but because of the 18.5 meter front setback that we're looking to retain, we are over the percentage that 411 would let us go up to. What's interesting about the gross floor area and the new building design versus the existing building design is that although the new GFA is 193.24 square meters, of that 10.5 square meters is within the front yard, the 20 meter setback. The existing GFA at half that, 78 square meters, there's actually more of the floor area within that 20 meter setback. There's about 15 square meters. So just the way the building has gone back and we kind of like tiered the front walls of it, it actually makes less square footage or square meters in the required yard. From a width perspective, should I explain that where we were kind of victim to the way that the frontage is taken across that parallel lot line. If we angled the building, we'd kind of be looking more across other people's properties and docks, and they'd also lose their view. So it just made sense for them to keep the same angle. I'm here to answer any questions. The property owners are online, but I don't think they have anything to add. They're just here to listen in and answer any questions that you guys have.
Okay, thank you. If the owners are online, they wish to comment, this would be a good time. Okay, don't see anything. Is there any member of the public that wishes to address the committee on this application? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public portion of the meeting and bring the application before the committee for any questions or comments. And we'll begin with Member Schmidt.
Thank you, through you, Chair Hill. Classic example of the numbers look big on paper because of the setback and why we're here. Had a site visit on the property yesterday, and the way that property is situated off to the side, you literally would have to go back into their bay to see any visual impact toward, especially the way this has been expanded to the back and the side. I think Victoria, you've done a great job fitting this square peg into a round hole, and done a great job. I think this is going to be a good thing when it's done. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? Member Jarvis.
Yeah, quick question, planners, but okay with you regarding the GIS. It seems that the GIS page 13 of the report, as I read it, seemed to indicate there was a second cottage on that property. I'm sure that's incorrect GIS work, but I'm just wondering about that.
Through the chair, there's no second dwelling on the property. It is likely that the parcel fabric in GIS that you're viewing is shifted, making it appear as if there's 2. But there is also a detached garage, so maybe that was the other building you were seeing as well. I'm not sure.
Thank you. Hang on here. You know, if you look at page 13 of the report, it shows like it's a substantial building with dormers,
That's the
front and
garage.
back.
That's the garage.
Sorry?
That could be the garage if it's to the, on the water, if it's to the right.
It's set back. Setback looks good, but it's on the, it looks like that's right on the driveway. That's the garage?
Yeah.
Ooh,
I'm guessing
okay.
that's the
A lot
only
more
other
like-
substantial building on the property.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any, Member Matthews?
Victoria or Jeanette, can you just, the existing building and the new building, are they on the same angle? So the measurement, I appreciate the measurement that you were talking about. I was just trying to understand. It was already there, right? The view is not going to change at all. Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. If there are no further questions, I will read the resolution. It is moved by Member Predko, seconded by Member Matthews. That be it resolved that the Township of Georgian Bay Committee of Adjustment hereby approves the following variances requested under minor variance application A 26-21. 1, that a maximum gross floor area increase of 146.73%, whereas section 411E permits an increase in the gross floor area of a legal non-complying shoreline dwelling of 70%. And 2, a dwelling having a width of 33.23% of the lot frontage, whereas section 411E and 6.33 permit a dwelling width equivalent to 25% of the lot coverage. And subject to the following conditions. 1, that the owner restores the majority of land within 15 meters of the front lot line to a natural state by planting native trees and plants no later than August 1st, 2028, for which the locations and species of native vegetations are to be identified on the landscape plan provided to the township for approval. 2, that the owner at their cost shall enter into a minor variance agreement with the township regarding and registered upon the subject lands deemed appropriate by the assigned township planner at their discretion for the purposes described in condition 1. And 3, that the owner provide a property tax certificate or correspondence from Township Financial Services indicating that all property taxes have been paid up to date with respect to the property that is subject to this decision. And 4, that the proposed development be substantially and proportionately in conformity with the dimensions as set out on the application and sketches submitted and approved by the committee. And 5, that the appropriate zoning certificate and building permit be obtained within 3 years from the date of the decision from the township only after the committee's decision becomes final and binding and a minor variance agreement has been registered. I just have one question here for the planner. The condition number 1, where the owner restores the majority of the property within 15 meters, is that a plan that the owner can bring forward to the township?
Through the chair, yes, we have provided the applicant with resources to prepare that landscape plan.
Oh, excellent. So there's no need of any clarification on there. All right. With that in mind, I would ask all those in favor of approval, please indicate by raising your hand. Thank you. The motion is carried and the application is approved. Thank you. Our next minor variance application is A 26-22 for 15 Silver Sands Lake Road. To the planner, please.
Thank you, and through the chair, the subject lands are Zone C3, Highway Commercial Exception Zone 10, and are located approximately 1 kilometer to the south of McCart. They have a lot area of 8.27 acres, a frontage of 185 meters on Silver Sands Lake Road, and an exterior side yard frontage of 182.9 meters on Lake Joseph Road. The property is currently developed with an office building, 4 bulk storage propane tanks, 2 sheds, 3 self-storage buildings, and storage containers. These structures are situated in the northwest corner of the property with forest vegetation and rock outcroppings covering the remainder of the lands. The purpose and effect of this minor variance is to seek relief from the zoning bylaw to facilitate the placement of 2 additional bulk storage propane tanks, the placement of a diesel fuel dispenser, and the legalization of 2 existing sheds. The bulk storage propane tanks would result in an exterior side yard setback of 27 meters, whereas 30 meters is required. The fuel dispenser would result in an exterior side yard of 3 meters, whereas 5 meters is required. And the legalization of the existing sheds would result in exterior side yard setbacks of 0.55 and 0.85 meters, whereas 5 meters is required. The bulk fuel storage tanks are proposed immediately adjacent to the existing tanks, while the diesel fuel dispenser is proposed along the north fence line. This siting maintains the necessary turning radius area and parking areas for the propane trucks that use the facility. The existing sheds are also located along the north fence line of the propane compound. They contain the mechanical components for the existing propane system, including the electrical and heating systems, compressors, safety valves, and fluids. These sheds appear on aerial imagery between 2013 and 2018, constructed without the necessary planning approvals. Much of the property is deemed of having a low to moderate wildfire hazard rating, although a portion of the forested area to the east of the current storage compound is extreme. However, the proposed development is further from the existing approved bulk storage fuel tanks with approximately a setback of 45 meters. It is the opinion of planning staff that the proposed development passes all 4 tests. It has a minor variance or a minor impact on the environment, as no natural heritage features are disturbed and no vegetation removal is required. It has no impact on the use of neighboring properties, as interior side yard setbacks are maintained, in addition to natural screening by outcroppings and trees, and it does not alter existing servicing or access. The development is consistent with other fuel bar and fuel storage uses along Lake Joseph Road, and it is an expansion to the existing uses of the property without constituting overdevelopment, as lot coverage is maintained at 8.2%, whereas 30% is permitted. The proposed development constitutes the expansion of a rural resource use, permitted in rural areas, specifically being a land-intensive resource use within 1 kilometer of the McCart urban center boundary. Likewise, the development conforms to the economic development policies specific to the McCart urban center by providing a vital business and service function to the surrounding lake communities. It relies on individual on-site sewage and water services, and it does not introduce additional vehicular access points or traffic impacts. Bulk fuel depots and bars are permitted uses within the C310 zone, and intents of the exterior side yard setback include maintaining privacy, allowing for maintenance and streetscape purposes. The developments maintain these intents as they are all of modest scale behind substantial vegetative buffers, and the bulk storage tank is located adjacent and comparable in scale to the existing tanks. Additional approval by the Ministry of Transportation and Technical Standards and Safety Authority will be required due to the nature of the development to ensure that safety and highway operations are maintained effectively. In summary, the committee has several options regarding the proposed development. The application can be approved, the application can be denied, or the application can be deferred with reasons and identification of the additional information or actions that the committee adjustment considers necessary to decide. For the reasons outlined, planning staff are supportive of the variances requested, subject to the recommended conditions being included in an approval decision and the owner fulfilling the requirements of the conditions implemented. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Madam Secretary, has been any correspondence of this application?
1 letter was received from Kelly Nicholson, Chief Building Official, stating she has no concerns.
Thank you. Is the applicant present, and do they wish to address the committee and add to what the planner provided? Please identify yourself with your name and address.
Good morning. My name is Patrick Kirkwood. I am the agent, so our address is 1011 Byers Road, Gravenhurst.
Okay, thank you. And you have something you wish to add?
Yeah, so over the last year, Budget Propane has increased our customer base in this area by about 200 customers. So this additional storage is for us is vital. Our fuel comes from Sarnia, so there's a lot of road closures that can happen throughout the winter. And with the past couple winters being so harsh, we've experienced delays in getting storage or fuel to our storage depots in McCart as well as other places. Additionally, we've had a lot of new standby generator customers come online, and just the amount of fuel needed for those is large. So that's the reason for our increase.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone online that wishes to address? Okay, is there any member of the public that wishes to address the committee on this application? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public.
I do. Oh, sorry. Sorry, public or the committee?
I hear a voice. Am I hearing voice? Am I the only one hearing that voice? Who said that?
Sorry, I did. Did you call it into the committee for questions yet? I'm sorry, misunderstood.
Oh, is that Louise?
Yes, it's Louise.
A ghost. Okay, no, Louise, we are just about,
Thank you.
Your timing's very good. We were just about to close the public portion of the meeting.
Thank you.
And bring the application before the committee for any questions or comments. And for this application, we're going to start with you.
Oh, thank you so much. I honestly think that this is a bit premature. I believe that this expansion is increasing the capacity at this facility by a third. We do not have any reports as to what the burn rate will be, what the vapor rate will be with an additional 60,000 liters there. The most recent plan that the TSSA has is from 2025, but it doesn't identify even the stormwater pond or the dry hydrant that the applicant is now showing on his plan. My other concern is that the additional space from these tanks will definitely make the swing space smaller. And the other concern is that this swing space affects two other standalone tanks that each contain 1,000 liters and a diesel storage tank as well. So all of these things will have to be included by the applicant on the TSSA approval plan. So I think they should really have that done first. I don't have no problem with it, but this is significant for us. Their TSSA plan indicates that there's, water supply within 3 kilometers away that pumps 750 liters a minute. I don't know where that is. They also say that the McCart Fire Department in McCart has 3 pumpers and 3 tankers, but I don't think they do. We only have 2, from my understanding. I mean, there are tankers elsewhere, but their TSSA report says McCart has 3 pumpers and 3 tankers. So in the catchment area, we don't. I mean, without the, and maybe in Honey Harbor. I'm just thinking, the other thing I would like to see is the planner's report says that there will be no expansion, but then the planner does say there will be minor expansion. So I want to know where that is. So I would just like to see that report come back. It's very risky. I think it's risky considering what I do for a living and what I've seen. I think that we should wrap this up. I would like the township to be very comfortable with the alert process for emergencies there. I want them to make sure the plan is in place. The reason I say that is because the applicant's plan with the TSSA that was just filed in 2025, one of the people on their list to approve is actually deceased. I mean, one of their contact persons to call is deceased. So I really think that let's have a refresh and make sure that that's going to pass. That would just be my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, member. That was a long list of items there. It's certainly more than what I could keep track of. But I would just like to ask our planning department, if in the process of processing this application, are there any approvals other than what have been presented by the planner that are required before we proceed to vote on this application?
Through you, Mr. Chair, this is the very start of the process, okay, for these people. We've had lengthy discussions with Patrick and the budget propane team. We've been working with them diligently. They did a pre-application consultation. They're working diligently with the fire department right now, updating their TSSA documents. Nothing can be done in regards to them opening this additional area without having the TSSA approval, without having an emergency response plan in place. These are all things that are governed by the provincial government. We have no choice over that. So this is only the first step. This is just for a reduction in setbacks for them to be able to put them there. We're not approving the actual stuff being there. We're just approving that they could be put there with a reduced setback. That's all we're doing. They have to go through full site plan approval, site plan agreement. Like this is the first baby step, so to speak.
Okay,
of the
and
process.
I'm assuming from what you're saying that there's a sequence that we have.
Yes,
to
there
follow.
is.
So, so this is the first step.
This is
okay.
the very first step, and this is the easiest step for them, so to speak.
So, Member River, you would have heard that conversation. Does that alleviate your concerns about moving forward? Your lips are moving, but there's no sound coming out.
Well, I mean, it's one thing to say, sure, you can go ahead and put them in. It's another thing to say, I'm sorry, the township can't even manage it because we don't even have the resources to respond to your fire plan, according to what they're putting out there. Really, it's a really good opportunity to look at this facility and how compliant is the township to making sure that the facilities plans are current and accurate. Because, as I said, there's a deceased person name on the escalation list.
Okay, I would ask our planner to respond to that, please.
As stated, Mr. Chair, budget and their team, including Patrick, are working diligently with the fire department. Chad Dowell, our fire chief, of course, is aware of the situation. He's very familiar with the site. And I mean, nothing's going to be approved by fire if it's not up to what it's supposed to be. So, I mean, if we don't have the equipment, then that Chad will deal with like that, those comments during the site plan approval process. So, I mean, like I said, this is the very first step. There's a long way to go, and there's a lot of things to look at. There's a lot of things that may have to be implemented. We don't know yet.
Okay.
So, and Patrick's very aware of the situation and where we're at. So,
thank you for that clarification. Member Preco.
Thank you, Chair, and through you and to the planner, and I kind of already anticipate your answer. So, but I'm going to ask the question anyway. Right now, we have a number of residential developments within different distances from budget propane, and when we have done the I think we did a severance. We've done minor variances for the location of a home, and I think there's one other property that we have made these decisions on based on the distance from budget and a potential explosion. And so I guess my question is, at what point do we make sure that that distance doesn't change and that the danger, the risk to dwellings or residents doesn't change because of this decision?
I can respond to that, Mr. Chair. In regards to that, basically the hazard distance report that is required and sorry, I forget the name of it. I just said it a minute ago. The risk assessment that will have to be updated to basically reflect the number of tanks they now have and to ensure that it's still within that required distance. That's all done through the fire department.
Thank you. Member Schmidt.
So further to that point, I would really like to know if this expansion of budget negatively affects property owners in the area. Sat here in a minor variance, and this impedes the rights of ownership of neighboring properties. If this expands and puts further limitations on neighboring properties under that burn and risk, I struggle. I struggle that this I understand there's a need. I understand its importance, but on the same token, it can't negatively affect without some remuneration, compensation, something when it impedes somebody else's property rights. So that's the only thing I want to make damn sure of before I agree for an expansion on that property.
Do you want to respond to that, Patrick, at all, or?
Yeah, so I can appreciate that sentiment. Just so we're clear, this RSMP, this risk safety plan, it's an engineered document done by a third-party consultant. He takes into effect, he's got a calculator that they run through basically everything we have on site, all the nearby properties and whatnot, to calculate a risk factor for this expansion. And this document's in the process of being updated. It has been sent to the fire department and they've reviewed it. I haven't heard back from them yet, but I did have a meeting with the deputy chief, Mr. Wool. So yeah, I think
I just want to be clear on, I understand where you're coming from, and I would ask Ms. McCabe if, you know, the timing of this seems to be a very important element here. If the committee goes ahead and approves the location of the tanks and the sheds and stuff like that, what happens further down the road if the result of the risk assessment that you're talking about comes back that it's not favorable to the neighbors, as Mr. Schmidt has mentioned, then the committee wouldn't be in favor. So it seems to me that if you look at that rationale, we ought to maybe wait and have a deferral.
I can comment a little further if you don't mind. In regards to that, just because you're approving a minor variance doesn't mean they're going to be able to build it. There's so many more steps to go before they can put them there.
Comment, Mr. Schmidt?
I hear you and I respect that. The problem is that we have already seen historically, you do your risks, you do your thing. Oh yes, this is the radius. It now just grew by 30%. And now we've impeded, and I think everybody in this circle knows I support individual property rights. I don't have an issue with your setbacks and doing some of the things that are going on. But when your use affects other people, I believe the risk assessment needs to be completed. The radius needs to be drawn, and anybody within that radius boundary needs to have proper correct notification that their rights are changing because of somebody else. We saw that in this room, and I just don't like when that's imposed on somebody without their prior knowledge.
Your point's well taken. Member Matthews, you had a comment as well?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess to Ms. McCabe, you indicated that this is the start of many processes. If we defer, for example, does that stop any of the other processes?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes and no. I mean, basically, why would they move forward with site plan approval if they don't have approval for the setback?
This is kind of a chicken and egg thing, correct?
Yeah. Now, you could defer in order to wait for comments from the fire chief and deputy chief in regards to the risk assessment, and then we could bring it back to see, I mean.
Yeah, but it appears from just the general conversation here that there's a feeling here among the committee that we may be the chicken rather than the egg.
Of course, I
So,
understand where you're coming from,
yeah.
100%.
I am going to propose
Yeah.
to Madam Secretary that we amend our resolution and for a deferral, and I don't think it's going to have any delay on any of the other processes, and we'll come back to this. Pending results of the risk assessment. Well, we don't have to narrow it down with some risk assessment.
Louise has her hand.
Who?
Louise.
Louise. I don't see Louise. Oh, there she is. Okay. Did you wish to add another comment, Louise?
If we're stating reasons for the deferral is for the risk assessment, I would just like to make sure it includes the risk of the fire hazard assessment because a portion of the property is indicated to be hazardous area. And just confirm that there's going to be no changing of the boundaries, because the planner's report does speak to some minor changes. So, and the other thing is the TSA report shows parking in one area different from what the applicant shows the parking. So I'm just want to make sure that that is, you know, that's confirmed. And they show the 2 extra storage tanks, the diesel tank, and that methane storage hut as well.
We
So
have that covered, Member Rivet, by the fact that we're calling it a risk assessment, and that includes all risks.
perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, we, our Secretary Treasurer has volunteered to read the revised resolution, and I think we ought to hear it. Excuse me. I will not.
Sometimes you lose guys, but I would like that.
Oh, thanks.
He's
Dan.
back.
Yeah.
I'll sit quietly here in the corner.
I guess you're feeling better now. Think your headache's gone. Okay. Member Jarvis, you had a question?
Yeah, I'm wondering if we can add to that. I'm curious to know how much of the surrounding property is designated commercial versus residential. I wonder if we can mark that off as well, or would that be part of the risk assessment anyway?
Yeah, it will be. So
Okay,
we'll
that's
do
fine.
that. So would you please proceed with the revised resolution?
Thank you through the chair. I'll read the resolution. If there's any comments, we can go from there. Be it resolved that the Township of Georgian Bay Committee of Adjustment defers minor variance application A26-22 respecting lands municipally known as 15 Silver Sands Lake Road to a future meeting of Committee of Adjustment pending 1, receipt and review of the required risk assessment plan respecting the proposed bulk propane storage tanks and diesel fuel dispenser, and 2, receipt of comments from the Township Fire Department regarding the proposed development and any associated fire and public safety concerns, and that application be brought back to Committee of Adjustment for consideration once the above information has been received and reviewed by staff.
That is excellent. Thank you. I didn't realize you could type that fast. It's pretty good. All right, so does your reading of that cause it? Yeah. So I'm saying the fact that you just read that, is that not same as me reading? Okay. So everybody who had the opportunity to review that revised resolution, you have a question?
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to confirm to Member Jarvis that all properties around this are commercial.
But even the stuff across the street, they looked like it was residential within.
Rural on 2 sides and across the street.
Commercial immediately adjacent.
Thank you for that. I'd like to get back to, excuse me, member, or Ms. McCabe, we're trying to take a vote on the resolution. Yeah. You okay? You okay? You? Okay. Okay. The resolution that was read by our Secretary Treasurer was moved by Member Predko, seconded by Member Hazelton. All those in favor of deferral of this application, please indicate by raising your hand. Thank you. The motion is deferred. The motion and the application are deferred. Thank you very much. The next minor variance that we have is minor variance application A26-23 for 20 Island 2060 in Georgian Bay. To the planner, please.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. The subject property is located on Island 140 or Big Ship Island within Georgian Bay. The property has an area of 2.83 acres, a frontage of 148.28 meters, and is located within the Concession coastal waterfront community. The property currently contains a detached dwelling, a sleeping cabin, a dryland boathouse, and a dock. The existing dwelling was sited at the 20-meter front yard setback exactly, with a gross floor area of 228.1 square meters. a minimum front yard setback of 15.09 meters, and a maximum gross floor area of 264.3 square meters was previously approved under minor variance application A2511 at the April 11th, 2025 Committee of Adjustment meeting. Specifically, minor variance A2511 permitted the construction of a single-story sunroom addition onto the northwest corner of the existing dwelling. The application before you today proposes to construct a half-story study addition atop the sunroom with a front yard setback of 15.63 meters, bringing the total gross floor area to 293.85 square meters. The view of the shoreline is not anticipated to be intensified as a result of the construction of the addition. As seen in the north and east elevation drawings, the width of the dwelling will not be increasing and the height will be less than that of the existing partial second story. Given the orientation of the building with respect to property frontage, the visual massing of the building from the shoreline will be minimally increased, as the addition is to be constructed in an area having a visual backdrop of the dwelling's existing partial second story. The Concession policies speak to the protection of natural heritage features within the waterfront community, the conservation of the overall natural landscape, tree cover, and vegetation shall be encouraged in an effort to preserve natural appearance, character, and aesthetics of the area. At this time, the framing of the sunroom is complete and the owners have confirmed that no mature tree removal has taken place. However, the condition of approval remains that from the previous application, which addresses the retention of the existing native vegetation encompassing the completion of the first-story sunroom construction and the proposed half-story study construction. A mature tree and vegetation retention plan, as displayed on screen, will be included in the amended minor variance agreement. As seen, the present vegetation surrounds the north extent of the building, permitting a suitable area of expansion behind natural screening. As depicted in the site photos displayed, there will be no hazard or flooding concerns with the proposed addition being located in closer proximity to the water, giving the significant elevation change between the current water's edge and the plateau where the dwelling is located. The location of the proposed addition will be behind the retained vegetation screening. The photos shown on screen display the vegetation screening between the sunroom addition and the shoreline, which is to be preserved by way of the minor variance agreement. Please bear in mind that the sunroom, as well as the proposed half-story study, will be finished with dark-colored exterior siding to match the aesthetic of the existing dwelling and work to blend with the natural environment. The committee can either approve or deny the variances being requested. The committee may also defer the application to a later date if additional information is required to come to a decision. Planning staff have completed a detailed analysis of the variances to the zoning bylaw being requested and are recommending approval subject to conditions. Thank you.
One letter was received from Kaylee Nicholson, Chief Building Official, stating building permits will be required and the septic system will be reviewed as part of the permit process. One letter was received from the Concession Cottagers Association stating they are in support of the 1.5-story concept that conforms to the Concession community plan, reflects good planning principles, and sets a positive example for future applications. And one letter was received from W. Wattsmuth and Scott, indicating that based on the revisions made to the current application, they have no objection to the proposal and believe the changes have improved its conformity with the Concession community plan.
I see Danielle is online. Do you wish to make a comment to the committee?
Hi there. Sorry if I missed my cue to start chatting there.
Somebody had their mic off.
Oh, okay. Yes. Hi, my name is Danielle Bilodeau from Justin Sherry Design Studio, here on behalf of the owners. Our address is 17 Point Street in Barrie, Ontario. Nice to see everybody again. I'll just give a brief presentation of our new proposal, and then I'm happy to answer any comments or questions as usual. As explained, our application is for the proposed construction of a 1.5-story addition on top of a previously approved 1-story sunroom. We had previously requested permission to construct a full 2-story addition on top of the sunroom, but our application was defeated due to the Concession Waterfront Community Official Plan policy noting that 2 stories are not permitted. Once our minor variance application was defeated, we worked through what route forward would be best. We weren't interested in filing with the OLT, so we explored the official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment route. And to get an idea and make sure that the township and its members would be on board with this, I met with multiple council members. I met with the mayor, and I discussed the application at length with the Concession Cottagers Association. After speaking with everybody and getting a better feel for what the community would like to see, we have revised our proposal and designed a 1.5-story addition over the 1-story sunroom. This proposal keeps our waterfront setback request the same as previously for the addition at 15.63 meters, still set back further from the sunroom, but it does reduce our request for an increased gross floor area to 293.85 square meters, where we were previously requesting 305. We do meet the height requirements for our proposed addition, and the 1.5-story design allows us to better blend in with the existing cottage. And as Andrew mentioned, the existing trees and vegetation at the north corner of the property, like our previous applications, it's proposed to remain and proposed to stay undisturbed. It was great, and I'm very happy that we got to work so closely with the Concession Cottagers Association, and we're very appreciative that they have sent in their letter of support. We were very happy to work with the community and hopefully found some middle ground, and we hope that you agree that this proposal now aligns with the general intent of the official plan and the zoning bylaw. Thank you for your time. I'm happy to answer any comments or questions, and I believe that the owner, Frank Mullen, is there in person as well, if you have any questions for him.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anything you wish to add, Mr. Mullen? Okay. Is there any member of the public present or online that wishes to address the committee? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public portion of the meeting and bring the application before the committee for any questions or comments. And we'll begin with Member Matthews.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to say congratulations to all parties involved. Danielle, Andrew, I think you've been through the ringer probably on this one. The Mullens, CCA. It's just great to see that, you know, there can be collaboration and we can get to an end result that everybody's happy with. So I just want to say congratulations to everybody for your continued direction and staying within the plan. Well done. I would be happy to support this now.
Thank you. Member Jarvis.
Thank you, through your chair. Question to our planner. I'm a little confused. I appreciate all the work that's been done on this, and I know that I talked to the planner as well. And I've talked to neighbors who are much appreciative of the work that was done after this. But in the report, the permitted minimum front yard setback is 20 meters. Proposed is 15.63 now, but existing is 15.09. How do we go back? How do we aren't taking anything away, so how do we go from 15.09 meters to 15.63 as our setback?
Through the chair, so the existing is the sunroom that was approved under the minor variance last year, A2511. As this is the addition of a now half-story atop this, it is a new variance and requires a new variance to the setback. If there was, say, a variance proposed for a single-story addition beside the sunroom that was at the same story and same level, and at that 15.63, there wouldn't be a variance required there. But because we're adding floor area above what's already there, an additional variance is required.
Okay, you may have to draw me a picture here. There's currently a sunroom there, and its setback is 15.09 meters, correct? We're putting something on top of the sunroom.
Mm-hmm.
Now, admittedly, it's not a full second story, which is what we've all been working towards, which is great. But isn't it still just 15.9 0.09 meters setback? I don't understand how it becomes
Because
greater.
it's
Not that I'm worried, not that I'm concerned, I'm just
Right.
curious.
through the chair, whether it be a second story or the half story, because it's an additional story, an additional variance is required to address the setback of, say, a second story coming into the front yard setback versus the first story that's already there.
I'll do this offline. You're gonna have to draw me some pictures after the meeting.
Just because of the top is no, you have to address that separately from what.
And it's set back more than the existing sun, right? Exactly. Right. Okay.
Microphones, please.
It's back half a meter from what it was there.
We're
Microphones.
addressing the,
Okay.
just the addition on top of the sunroom is what we're addressing for setback.
That's correct. And it doesn't come out to the full front wall of the
That's
sun.
an easy answer.
Yeah. Okay, are there any other questions or comments from the public? Seeing none, I will or the committee. Seeing none, I will read the resolution. It is moved by member Ribbit and seconded by member Jarvis. Be it resolved that the Township of Georgian Bay Committee of Adjustment approves minor variance application A 26-23 to zoning bylaw 2014-75 as amended for 20 Island 2060 Georgian Bay to facilitate the construction of an addition to the existing dwelling as described below. 1. A decrease in minimum front yard setback to 15.63 meters where 15.09 meters currently exists. And whereas section 7.3, table 7.2 permits a minimum front yard setback of 20 meters. 2, an increase in maximum gross floor area of a dwelling in the Concession coastal waterfront community of 293.85 square meters, where 264.3 square meters currently exist. And whereas section 7.3.1B permits a maximum gross floor area of 275 square meters. The above noted approvals are subject to the following conditions. 1, that the owner provide a property tax certificate or correspondence from Township Financial Services indicating that all property taxes have been paid up to date with respect to the property that is subject to this decision. 2, that the owner at their cost shall amend the existing minor variance agreement with the township regarding and registered upon the subject lands to implement the recommendations of the amended erosion and sediment control plan and construction mitigation plan prepared by Sumac Environmental Consulting. And 3, that all existing shoreline area vegetation be retained and any vegetation removed or damaged during the construction of the development shall be replaced with native vegetation to the satisfaction of the township. And 4, that the proposed addition be substantially and proportionately in conformity with the dimensions as set out in the application and sketches submitted and approved by the committee, and that the appropriate zoning certificate and building permit be obtained within 3 years from the date of decision from the township, only after the committee's decision becomes final and binding. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you. The motion is carried and the application is approved.
Chair Hill,
Thanks, everyone.
am I allowed to make a comment here?
Not in regard to the application that we just approved. Is there something other that's on your mind that?
I don't have any concerns. What I'm trying to do is really echo what Member Matthews said and highlight the fact that I think this is one of the first times we've seen an applicant who has been denied not go straight to the OLT and seek approval, but instead work with the community to seek cooperation with the neighbors and the community who are very passionate about their neighborhood plan and try to fit in. And I think this is perhaps a model that we should be trying to champion and highlight going forward so that rather than, as we see so often, somebody gets denied at this committee and they go straight to the OLT and seek approval there as opposed to working within this framework. So huge accolades for the applicant and for this process. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for those comments. Our next application is minor variance application A26-24 for 49 Dayeo Drive. To the planner, please.
Thank you, and through the chair. The subject property has an area of 2,241 square meters with a frontage of 60 meters on Myers Lake. The subject lands are developed with a detached dwelling, an attached deck, a shed, and a staircase providing access down to the dock. The lands are designated waterfront in both the district and township official plans and zoned shoreline residential type 1. The purpose and effect of the application is to seek relief from the zoning bylaw to facilitate the replacement and enlargement of the septic system, which will have a setback of 23 meters from the high water mark, whereas the zoning bylaw requires new and expanded systems to have a minimum setback of 30 meters from the high water mark. The new larger system is required to service the number of bedrooms in the dwelling. The site plan shown here was prepared by an Ontario Land Surveyor, which was noted as outstanding at the time of writing the associated staff report and confirms the proposed setback and system location. An environmental impact study prepared by Vasey Valley Ecological Solutions was prepared in support of the proposed septic system location to assess the potential impact on the type 1 fish habitat. The ecologist concluded that contingent upon the implementation of their recommendations, the development will have a low likelihood of negatively impacting type 1 fish habitat on or adjacent to the site. The township's environmental consultants, Hutchinson Environmental Sciences Limited, reviewed the study, noting several concerns and questions. Planning staff received a revised study on Friday, July 7th, for which Hutchinson's peer-reviewed, finding that 8 comments were fully addressed, 4 comments were partially addressed, and 1 comment was not addressed, recommending that the remaining outstanding issues be resolved prior to issuing development approval. The recommendations of the environmental impact study support the intent of the waterfront designation by ensuring that natural features and ecological functions are protected during the installation of the proposed septic system. Specifically, the study recommends that natural vegetation be retained in its existing state and that a heavy-duty silt fence be installed along the down gradient edge of the construction area to prevent sediment migration during site works. The official plan requires a 30-meter setback from high water mark for an individual on-site sewage service bed, but in the situation where the required setback is not feasible and where on-site phosphorus management plan is implemented, a reduced setback will be considered. The plan states the purpose of this policy is to site individual on-site sewage service beds in the best location for phosphorus management. Staff are satisfied that the proposed location of the septic system has been selected to minimize vegetation removal and overall site disturbance. The intent of the zoning bylaw provisions pertaining to existing and new septic systems are to permit the replacement, upgrading, and limited expansion of legally existing systems where necessary to support existing or proposed development, while ensuring that any new or expanded components do not increase noncompliance with current setback requirements. By requiring replacement or expanded systems to maintain or increase the existing setback from the shoreline and comply with applicable Ontario Building Code requirements, these provisions help protect water quality, minimize potential environmental impacts, and promote the long-term functionality of on-site sewage services. As part of the 2024 building permit process, the conversion of a room into a bedroom triggered a requirement to upgrade the septic system to meet the Ontario Building Code, and the proposed upgrade will maintain the existing system location and shoreline setback, minimize site alteration and vegetation disturbance, accommodate future plans for a detached garage in the rear yard, and with recommended mitigation measures, protects fish habitat, water quality, and the long-term functionality of on-site sewage services. Upon receipt of a revised environmental impact study that has been reviewed and deemed satisfactory by the township's environmental consultant, staff are of the opinion that the application meets the intent and purpose of the official plan and zoning bylaw. Pictured on the left is a view of the dwelling from the driveway, and on the right is a picture of the dwelling and the granite rock outcrop in the side yard taken from the approximate area of the septic system. Pictured here is another photo of the side yard and the grass area next to the fire pit where the septic is located, as well as a photo of the property taken from the shoreline. Planning staff are recommending that the application be deferred to allow the applicant time to submit a revised environmental impact study, which is deemed satisfactory by the township's environmental consultant. The committee can approve, deny, or defer the application. Should the committee approve the application, planning staff have prepared a resolution contained within the associated report, including 2 conditions requiring the property owner to provide a satisfactory study and to enter into a minor variance agreement registered on title. Thank you.
There's been any correspondence in this application?
One letter of objection was received from Babs Balzac, who expressed concerns that the proposed reduction to the shoreline setback could negatively impact water quality, establish an undesirable precedent, and is not warranted given the proposal appears capable of complying with the required 30-meter setback. 2 letters of support were received from Lisa Caparelli and Pam and Cliff Jordan, and 1 letter was received from the township's clerk's department stating they have reviewed the site plan and confirmed that there is no concerns with the septic bed being located within the shoreline allowance, provided that the septic tank remains entirely outside of its boundaries. However, should the owners wish to obtain building permits for any structure proposed within the shoreline allowance, they must first purchase the applicable portion of the shoreline allowance from the township before permits can be issued.
Any on this application?
Yeah, so my name is Daniel Wieczorek, 49 Dayeo. I don't have any comments, but I can answer questions.
Is there any member of the public?
Thank you, through the chair. So the septic setback request is 23 meters from the high water mark or water, whatever it is out there. Our municipal bylaws require 30-meter setback. My understanding is the OBC setback is 15 meters. Have I got that correct?
Through the chair, I'll allow our chief building official to respond to that question regarding the code.
Through the chair, sorry, Councilor Durbis, would you just repeat yourself?
Sorry?
Could you just repeat your question?
Yeah, the OBC standard setback is 15 meters. Is that not correct?
That would be for a septic that is completely dug into the ground. You're correct.
And this one will be completely buried, will it not?
No.
Oh.
In Georgian Bay, that's very unlikely that
Well,
it
you
completely.
You bring in cover for it.
So it depends on the type of the system. So if you're speaking of a filter bed, that setback increases double the height. It is off of natural grade. So it depends on the type of the system. We haven't seen a proposal yet, obviously, because it hasn't made it past this committee. But most cases in Georgian Bay, the minimum setback tends to be about 18 meters, give or take.
Thank you. Appreciate that input. Okay.
No.
Fair Hill, microphone.
Sorry. It's through to you, Chair. No, the request was for a 23-meter setback because that's the existing septic system. That has nothing to do with the building department. That was the request of the applicant.
Okay, and should I, perhaps you could answer that question. Where did the 23 meters come from?
Through the chair, that is the proposed setback to this system, to the tank from the high water mark.
It appears to me that there was no discussion with the building department as to whether that would be appropriate or not for the.
Through the chair, that is not the case. We did consult with the building department before receiving this application through the pre-application consultation process.
Okay, we're getting into semantics, and I guess if we approve, then there's a process to make sure that it meets all the required standards. Okay. Okay. You had a comment, Member Smith?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So on the documentation, everything I'm reading here, it says that it's going to be a Waterloo biofilter system, correct? That is correct, and that would be looked after. That is a very significant upgrade to a conventional bed. So if, yes, if it is a Waterloo biofilter system and that's what's going to be imposed, I would have no issue with these setbacks. It's fantastic for effluent and phosphates, big time.
Thank you. Are there any other members of, Member Matthews, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Shania, I'm a little confused because in the original report, you were suggesting deferral until we got some answers from the peer review, and you've gotten some answers, is that correct?
Oh, she died.
See, Mr. Chair, we went on too long.
There we go. Through the chair, planning staff are still recommending a deferral because we have not received a satisfactory study for the proposed development.
Right.
So yes, they have prepared mitigation measures and they have prepared a study, but they haven't prepared one that or the township's environmental consultants believe is satisfactory for the development to proceed.
So, yeah, so I guess my point is I would support that deferral until we get the answers that we're looking for, regardless of the type of system that's being proposed. And I agree, it's a fabulous system, but I'm not an environmental scientist either, right? So I would support the deferral. So.
Thank you. As it turns out, we have that.
I just was trying to confirm that.
I'm just curious, is there a way that an approval can be done with a condition of? So instead of it having to come back to committee, once it's confirmed that it's approved by the departments, that this can move ahead instead of it having to be circled back again for another potential month. Just, can we approve it subject to the condition instead of deferring it?
Is that an efficient step, or do we save any time by doing that? Or is it just, again, we still have to go through the process?
Through the chair, I did prepare 2 resolutions if this was the committee's wish to just approve conditionally that they do prepare an EIS that's satisfactory by the township's consultants. So that decision is the committee's, whether they defer or approve. In terms of saving time, I believe it will save the applicant some time. Hutchinson's has been very great with their turnaround times. And I expect that they'll have comments within a couple days of receiving this revised study. And then, as you know, the next available committee of adjustment meeting date isn't until, I believe, we'd be able to get on. We'd probably have to move it to August, I believe, or September, I believe it's 18th.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I will ask our Secretary Treasurer if they're in a position to read a resolution to approve subject to conditions. But I'll bet Shania could send you that right now.
Through the chair, I can copy and paste it from the report, but
Why don't you just
it
read
is
Why don't
in
you just read it
the
and
report.
we'll go with that.
Okay. You want me to read that?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, here we go. It's a bit of a mouthful. I don't envy your job.
We need to adjust the camera a little bit here, so go ahead.
I don't even have the report open.
So we have a resolution which is going to be read by Ms. Wanfler, and it is moved by Member Smith and seconded by Member Hazelton. And it starts off with be it resolved. So let's go, Shania.
Okay. Be it resolved that the Township of Georgian Bay Committee of Adjustment hereby approves the following variance requested under minor variance application A2624. A septic system having a setback of 23 meters from the high water mark, whereas section 4.27A and C of the zoning bylaw require a setback of 30 meters. And subject to the following conditions: that the owner provide a revised environmental impact study prepared by a qualified professional and peer-reviewed by the township's environmental consultants to the satisfactory of the township planner in support of the application. 2, that the owner at their cost shall enter into a minor variance agreement with the township regarding and registered upon the subject lands deemed appropriate by the assigned township planner at their discretion, given its purposes described in the Planning Services Staff Report A27 A 2624. 3, that the owner provide a property tax certificate or correspondence from the Township Financial Services indicating that all property taxes have been paid up to date with respect to the property that is subject to this decision. 4, that the proposed septic system be substantially and proportionally in conformity with the dimensions as set out on the application and sketches submitted and approved by the committee. And 5, that the appropriate zoning certificate and building permit be obtained within 3 years from the date of the decision from the township only after the committee's decision becomes final and binding.
Thank you very much. So again, I will ask for a vote from the members to approve the application with the conditions as outlined in the resolution. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. Thank you. The motion is carried and the application is approved. Thank you very much. I would like to thank everyone for their participation in today's meeting. I have a motion that is moved by Member Matthews and seconded by Member Rivet. Be it resolved that the Township of Georgian Bay Committee of Adjustment does now adjourn at 12:06 p.m. until August 14, 2026 at 10 a.m. or at the call of the chair. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. Thank you. The motion is carried.